Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation about the updates, including Beest 12.01, which we released earlier this month, November 2019. Today we'll go over the changes in Beest to support a new version of AirMod that came out about 2 months ago, AirMod 19191, which is the new building downwash options and the new source type in AirMod. Then we've also made a change in how you can download terrain data files, and also download the wind data files in our AirManage application. And finally, we also had support for a BPAT Prime model update. This is actually a draft version. The final version has not been released yet by the EPA. And in this presentation, I'll be alternating between these slides and the Beest program as well. So first, we have some new downwash options in this new version of AirMod. With new options developed separately by EPA and by the Air and Waste Management Association. In both cases, they're supposed to or they're theorized to improve how AirMod treats the building downwash for point sources. And where you select those new options in Beest is in our control options section in Beest in the non-default tab. Let me go ahead and go to the Beest and show you where that's located. All right, so here we have an example modeling project open in Beest. You have to go to control options either by clicking this button or going to the pathways menu. You have to make two selections here to access the new options. One is that on the default tab, instead of the default model selection, you have to select the alpha options here, and then go with the non-default tab, and now you can select the new options down here on the right. When you do make those selections, and when you then on AirMod, the new options will be included. The options themselves are described in the user's guide for AirMod 19191. For example, if I include this option in AirMod, this will affect how building downwash is staged by the AirMod model. So you have to select alpha option on the default tab, and then you also have, and then you can access all of the new options here in the non-default. Now, in the new version of AirMod, EPA also had a new source type, which is the R-line source, which is supposed to model emissions from roadways. It's very similar to a line source that existed in previous versions of AirMod. Now, at least in this version of AirMod, the source type doesn't support non-flat terrain yet. So you have to select the flat terrain option for now to model these kinds of sources. And if we go back to Beest, I have to select the beta option here in default. Then you have to select either the selected sources are flat or assume flat terrain option in non-default. I'll select the first one. And finally, you can add the R-line source. The way to do that in Beast is to add the line source and then select it as being an R-line source. What that means is I'm just going to say add line source, which is done for both regular line and irregular line sources. Draw the source on the map, or say on the screen. And then one of the selections I can make here is if it's a regular line source or the new R line source. In this case, I'm going to select the R line. And once you do that and fill in the source parameters here, then the line will be added, and it will be modeled as the R line source. Now, if you forgot to make that R line selection when you were adding the source, you have to go back to source options, go to the source grid, and make the same selection right here in the line sources tab. So say if you initially had the source just as a regular line source, now you want to change that. I want to change that. You can go ahead and make that selection right here. And now that you've added the source, you can now run AirMod as usual and it'll be modeled as the new R line source. As far as I understand, the VP does plan to add support for non-flat terrain to this kind of source in the future, but that will be in a future version of AirMod. The next update, or the next new feature in Beest 12.01 is the way that you download terrain data files. When you calculate which terrain files to download, we now have a button that takes you to the website where you download the files, and also a button to open our terrain files converter program. The reason that is needed is that the files that you can download from the website, they're in the ArcGrid format, which the terrain program for AirMod, which is called AirMap, it doesn't recognize the format, so you have to convert it to a format with which it does work, the GSF. Once you do that, you can use the terrain data files in Beest. So what has changed in Beest is our calculate terrain limits form, which you can access by clicking this button on the toolbar. So now we have two buttons here. One is the button to download terrain files, and the other is from the conversion program. So what you would do is tell Beest to calculate the limits. And once you do that, you tell Beest to download you can tell Beest to go to the website to download their files. And at the same time, just click this other button to open our converter program. Now, actually, if you open the user manual in that program, it will give you step-by-step instructions for downloading and working with the terrain data files. The other change is that in this version of Beest, the same limits that you see here in Beest have also been filled in on the options tab in the conversion program. So once you download the data file and process it through this program, it will have the terrain data within these bounds. Again, the user manual in this conversion program gives you the step-by-step instructions for downloading the data files and working with them. Okay. Another program that VP released recently, actually back in August, is a new version of DPAP Prime, which calculates downloads for buildings and point sources. This is not the final version. This is not the final version. This is a draft version. But what's new in this version is that the calculate downloads differently for rectangular buildings. And to use this version in Beast, you have to select the exe file for it in Preferences, and then just find DPAP Prime. Go to Preferences, go to File menu, Preferences, and then go all the way to the last step, which is called Model Selection. Now, by default, the DPAP Prime is going to be the current version, not the draft version. Wait, click the Browse button here, and select a file called DPAP-PM19191 and click Open. Then Beast will run this draft version for you. And go back to the other version. You just have to go back and select the DPAP-PM file. So now we just select the new file. Click OK. And just run DPAP Prime just normally like you usually would. This is actually not going to run the new version for you. So the only difference between the normal DPAP Prime version and the draft one is just that you select the different programs here in Preferences. Other than that, our DPAP Prime is the same. And finally, in this release of Beast, we also update our 8-year minute program for downloading wind data files. The folder where those files are saved is now selected on the Download tab, not in Preferences as it was in the past. You can also select separate folders for 1 minute and 5 minute data files that this program downloads. Now in AirMid, I have an example station for which I want to download files, and I just want to download them for January 2019. So now when I go to the Download tab, you can see that I can just select the folder right here. When I click OK and click Download, the files will be saved into that folder. And additionally, once you make the selection, if you then go to the 1 minute tab to select the file you just downloaded, this folder will be set for you automatically. And those are all the changes in Beast 12.01. We will now go ahead and take questions.